If the alcoholic in a meeting says something like, I can't get my dog to go outside, well, that's an outside issue until they add, and it makes me want to drink. Then it becomes a topic for discussion.
The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship.
Don't have to put your allegiance to stand in line. No ticket to buy, no paper to sign. You found it. This is the place.
That's right, my friends. This is the place. You have tuned in to Take 12 Recovery Radio, broadcasting from the studios of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting on the outskirts of beautiful downtown Albany, Oregon. The topic this week, outside issues. What are they really?
Just don't drink. Walk if you're ready. This is the place.
Are you ready?
This is the place where I wear no mask
ever again.
I'm not part of the past. Get a little taste of saving grace. Hook up to the human race. Come on in. This is the place.
Well, welcome aboard, one and all. You tuned in to another fine episode of the Take 12 Recovery Radio Show. Today in the studio, we have a full house. There's Denver.
Howdy.
There's Anthony. Hello. And there's his fine lady friend. There's Naomi.
Hello.
Yeah, and Dave Fleming.
The
Boy.
vid.
The
What's
vid.
up?
Yeah, how you guys doing? Huh?
Great.
Yeah, did you weather the heat?
So hot.
So hot.
Still happening.
Yeah, well, it's not as bad as it was. So one day out on the patio was like 115 for a couple of hours, and our geraniums were not happy.
They felt it.
Yeah, well, we had them out on the other part of the porch where they were in direct sunlight.
Yeah, melted.
So we had to move them underneath the porch to get out of the direct sunlight, but they're doing much better. They are much happier because of kind of a work shift for Vid. He's back with us on Mondays, first and second Monday of the month. Wave,
Yes, sir.
wave there, Dave.
Glad to be back.
Yeah, those of you who are YouTubio people watching on YouTube, indeedy. That one show that we did, Dave, where you were answering questions.
Yeah.
Right? Almost within an hour, we had almost 400 people listening to the full show
Nice.
within an hour. And then by the end of the week, there was like 1,400 downloads.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, wow, what was so special about that show? I think it was
That's
just
awesome, man.
the way we formatted it and so forth. So that was cool. Naomi's our special guest this week. Hey.
Hey.
Yeah, so we've actually known each other a long time.
A
I
long
didn't even
time.
realize that until you walked in and you said something. So a shout out to your folks. And Anthony is sitting there. So you guys are kind of sort of dating, or are you dating?
We're friends. We're friends.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah.
We're friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're friends.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see. Right, Denver?
So,
Well,
Got
welcome.
his own issues.
I ain't touching that.
Yeah.
I ain't touching that.
I hear you. Well, we're glad you're here. This is going to be a fun show. Uh-oh.
Stop right there, everybody,
Uh-oh.
because it's time for the Muncie Man's Weekly Wine.
That's right.
All you do is whine. All you do is whine.
I think I can hear the ambulance coming
All
now.
you do is whine. Whine. Whining is all you do.
All right. All right. That's enough of that. Thank you, Cecil, for that fine introduction. So I have no problems throwing companies under the bus who did not fulfill their. They do not fulfill what they advertise that they do. One such company is Point Pest Control. So we had a pest problem in our house, and they came out and they did some work, and they actually the work they did was really good quality. So when you do the right job, you get a good pat on the back. And they did an amazing job putting new screens and a new gate in our crawl space, and screens in the air whatever you call the airflow things under your house, so the rodents can't get in and all that kind of stuff, right? But after that, and they're not cheap. The follow-up on these guys, they didn't show up when they said they would. They would show up when they said they weren't going to be there, so then we weren't home. They were supposed to call us 30 minutes before they came. They wouldn't. And then sometimes they would, but they'd call the wrong number. They were supposed to do maintenance on the house several times during the year. They would do the front part, but not the back part. I mean, it's just one thing after another. So I cannot recommend Point Pest Control for your rodent problems. There you go. The bus has
Wow.
now has a new occupant.
Wow.
That we just threw them under.
Wow.
So, but probably worse than that, right, is my experience at Super Deluxe Burgers in Sheraton.
All right, here we go. Now we're having fun.
Super deluxe.
Super.
Now again, the good side of this story is talk about fresh. I mean, their fries, they cut them right there. They grill the onion. Everything is done right there. They have a very simple menu: a single patty and a double patty. That's it.
Are the burgers still mooing?
Oh man, the burger was amazing. Way better than In-N-Out Burger. That's overrated anyway. I think probably about 5 steps up from Hasty Freeze, and I happen to like Hasty Freeze.
Yeah, me too.
They were just, and there was no waiting. They were just really good. But here's my wine, and it's really just very humorous. Okay, so the mask restrictions have been lifted. Social distancing is no more. All that stuff. And now it's up to the person or the individual or the privately owned business to do whatever they want to do, right? So no mask required at Super Deluxe Burger at all when you walk in. So here's this plate glass separator between the lady behind the register and us, left over from the whole COVID thing, right? She's wearing a mask. She's behind this plate glass thing. She's wearing a mask. And right over her shoulder at all the people making the great burger and fresh food, no one's wearing a mask. She is, and she's behind this protective shield. They're not, and they're dealing directly with the food. And I thought, yep, it continues to make that much sense, doesn't it?
Bank tellers are the one that got me. They were behind the glass there when I pulled up to get some money the other day.
Yeah.
And I realized that the establishment probably requires her to wear one. But she's 20 feet away through X amount of pieces of glass and a tube, and she has a mask on, and I can barely understand her.
And the lobby's closed?
Yeah, and the lobby's closed. And I'm going, holy cow, how far have we taken this ridiculousness?
Oh,
They're
man.
fumigating the building with Lysol.
It's
Right,
just,
right.
It's ridiculous.
Naomi, what did you think of all this craziness that went on with the whole mask thing and all? Were you a masconite or an anti-mask?
Well, I work in healthcare, so I
Oh.
didn't really have a choice.
Then you definitely had to be
I
on board.
had to wear them all the time, and I was working at a place that was an active outbreak place.
Yeah.
So we had several COVID exposures. What killed me was that I was working with someone with a mask, with an N95 mask on.
Right.
She ended
The
up,
ones that work.
yes.
Yeah.
She ended up having COVID, and because I didn't have goggles on, which were not required, I missed 2 weeks of work. And when I got back to work 3 days later, that mandate was lifted, and I never would have had an exposure.
Wow.
So I got to have 2 weeks off. What an opportunity.
Oh man. Okay. So that's really. Anybody got a wine this week?
No.
It's hot.
There was
No.
one that my wife shared with me yesterday. Apparently, this happened at what is it? Market of Choice.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the overpriced healthy food store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, they're a little over the top on the whole mask thing and
Oh, are
all
they?
this other stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is after they lifted the mandate. Some lady was, I don't know the whole backstory, but employees were harassing her, and they followed her all the way out to her car. Like,
Oh my
About
goodness.
not wearing a mask?
yeah.
Really?
I love the people. They're out in the middle of the country riding their bicycles, by themselves, and they have double masks on.
Now,
Somebody help the boy.
to their defense, allergies are bad this year, and I will stand
Okay,
behind
okay,
them
I
that
can
a
buy
mask
that.
can be necessary for that. I mean, I don't wear one even with my allergies,
Yeah.
but still,
All right, I'll
there
give you
is allergies.
2 masks.
two masks.
Two masks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose.
That's
I-
a dangerous pollen.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's a market of choice thing because I was at market of choice
Yeah.
about a week
Pull that in more.
after
you go.
after the social distancing thing became
Right.
a deal, and masks were recommended, or maybe she had said you have to wear them in public now,
Right.
and so I'm wearing my mask, but it's underneath my nose, and
Oh yeah, that's a no.
and this guy, bless his heart, he comes up to me. He's wearing sandals with socks, which that's a whole different outside issue for me.
Careful now.
For me,
I'm almost 66. That goes with the territory.
hey, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
And he wreaks high heaven. Anyways, he comes up to me like face to face with me, and he goes, the masks don't work if you have them under your nose. And I'm like, dude, you're close enough to where.
The masks don't work anyway.
Yeah, I'm like,
I mean,
I'm like, oh well, thanks for letting me know. And so I walk away and I pull my mask back down, and then he runs and he tattles on me to one of the employees, and the employee comes up to me. He's like, look, dude, if you see that guy, just pull your mask up. He goes, just to make it, whatever. Maybe it's a market of choice thing now.
I don't know. I had that happen to me at Safeway. What you're talking about, I was because I couldn't, my glasses fogged
Right.
up, and I
Ow.
forgot my shield, and so I had a mask in my pocket, and this lady was tooling around her cart.
yeah.
Only thing that popped through my head was,
Go ahead, say it, Dave.
pull up your mask. Pull up your mask. I'm just like, yeah, waving at her, and
The hinges came unhitched.
I'm like, whoa. But anyway,
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think we beat that one to enough,
Yeah.
probably. And
at least for now.
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm waiting for the ball to drop. I don't think we're done with all this because we have people in office that aren't even sober that are trying to make decisions here in Oregon that are just bizarre. So we'll see now that we've lost half our listening audience. Yeah,
I don't see the phone lines lighting up, so you're good for
yeah,
right
the
now.
thing's not flashing right now. Okay, so that does it for the
There's no
weekly
knock at the door.
the weekly wine. We'll be back
All you
right
do
after this.
is whine. Whining is all you do.
That's a mask he's wearing. I sure wish he'd take it off.
Hey, it's the Monty Man, and I want to thank you personally for tuning in to this broadcast. But listen, we have many more shows in our archives. Simply go to take12radio.com and click on any of the major podcasting platforms that are posted there. And now, back to this week's show.
I wanna talk about dope, smoke and blow. They shook their heads, said no, 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 that's an outside issue. Well, that's an outside issue. Man, it ain't in the groove if it ain't conference approved. Lost my job, I can't make my rent. They said, sorry son, unemployment is an outside issue. It's an outside issue.
All right, this week's topic, outside issues. What are they really? That was Michael Purrington and the Messengers. We'll be hearing again from him for our closing song. He also does our theme song for this show. Okay, so this is a bone of contention, has always been within 12-step fellowships. Heaven forbid anybody brings up anything that you don't want to hear or that you don't like, especially if it pushes your buttons and makes you uncomfortable around politics, issues of faith, or maybe the way you do or do not work your program.
Yeah, because it's all about me.
Because it is all about you, Dave. So I'm going to start out. I'm going to read the short and long form of AA's Tradition 10, and then Dave's got Narcotics Anonymous's Tradition 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll unpack this thing. Okay, so the short form of AA's Tradition 10 simply says Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues. Well, right there, that's laughable. I gotta say, that's laughable. But that's ideally in life. There is the ideal, and then there's the real. So what's realistic is one thing. What's idealistic is another. So ideally, that's a good thing that AA has no opinion on outside issues. And then it says, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. Well, sorry, but AA has been in public controversy since the beginning, at not necessarily any fault of AA, just because of controversy, and people are people. But the tradition is there, to protect Alcoholics Anonymous from certain things. Now, the long form says this, and listen to the wording very carefully. No AA group or member, so that's inclusive, right? The group as a whole, or a singular member, should ever, that's key, in such a way as to implicate AA, that's key. And we're going to go back over this in a minute. So what shouldn't they ever do? Express any opinion on outside controversial issues, particularly those of politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one. Concerning such matters, they, who's they? The group, can express no views whatever. Okay, so we'll come back to this. Dave, what do you got for Narcotics Anonymous?
Well, let's see here. Where'd it go?
Did you lose it?
Give me a second here. Where'd it go?
Dun 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 dun
Right.
dun. Okay.
Okay, here we go.
You got it? Okay.
So, and this is from website NA way of life.
Okay.
Says Tradition 10, NA has no opinion on outside issues, hence NA name never be drawn into public controversy. It says having an opinion is having an opinion. It doesn't matter if we fight for what is socially acceptable or unacceptable. Any type of opinion used in conjunction with the words Narcotics Anonymous creates public controversy. In this case, it does not matter who is right. It doesn't matter what is right. What matters is that it is none of NA's business. It is difficult for addicts not to share their opinions. We must respect this tradition and do this in our own NA family in a way that does not become available outside of NA. This is kind of a long read here.
Okay. Well, we don't have time to do the whole thing,
Right.
but we get the picture. So keep your opinion out of it. Those are outside issues. It's none of NA's business. Let's stick with the business at hand, which seems to be, from what I can gather in attending Narcotics Anonymous meetings, is carrying the message to the addict who still suffers. What's the message? The 12 steps. That's the message. And if you're doing anything outside of that, that would be an outside issue. That's been my experience here in this area of the world. In Alcoholics Anonymous, so let's go back, because the way the traditions are written are actually identical in the short form. So Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion. In NA it says Narcotics Anonymous has no opinion. But I think it's really interesting. It says in the long form, no AA group or member should ever in such a way to implicate AA. So what that tells me is that as long as you're not implicating Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous with your opinion, then you're free to discuss whatever you want to discuss. Because it's not talking about your personal story here or your personal experiences. It just says they don't want you implicating AA as having an opinion on controversial issues, particularly of politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. So how in the world is saying that I have trouble taking my dog out implicate AA in anything? It doesn't. So that would not be a tradition violation to say, I have trouble taking my dog out. Now, is that kind of silly and probably a waste of valuable group share time? Probably. But is it a tradition break? No. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one. I would take issue with that. I've been to plenty of groups that oppose all sorts of people. I've heard people say that grandfather was their higher power or Jesus was their higher power. And somebody in the group will interrupt them and say, we don't do that. Wait a minute. I thought we oppose no one. Seems like a bit of a contradiction. Concerning such matters, they can express no views, whatever. So I want to read what Chris S. wrote on social media. He says, I can't seem to housebreak my dog. It's too cold outside. I'm having a hard time finding a job. My wife or girlfriend is driving me nuts. I am a Democrat. I am a Republican. These are all outside issues, except for how they affect our alcoholism and our recovery. If the alcoholic in a meeting says something like, I can't get my dog to go outside, that's an outside issue until they add, and it makes me want to drink. Then it becomes a topic for discussion. The thing about my alcoholism is that it has strings into every aspect of my life. To say that this or that is an outside issue is like saying all I need to do is stay away from alcohol. But that's not enough. My sobriety is about spiritual growth, about how to live life on life's terms. Sometimes I need help from someone who's been there, done that. I need to learn to pass those bumps in the road without drinking. At this point, those bumps in the road of life stop being an outside issue, especially those ones that baffle me. My drinking was but a symptom. What I have is a living problem. Good stuff, right? So we have made in 12-step fellowships, and we pick on AA because it's the mothership, but because it's the domino effect from everything stems from that. But the deal of it is we've made narcotic use, we've made alcohol use in both these fellowships. We've made in Celebrate Recovery, we've made the outward display of sinful behavior. We've made all these things which we call symptoms the point of the problem, and they're not the point. They're simply the symptom, right? But heaven forbid we talk about what really is driving the symptom. We just want to talk about the symptom, and that's not correct at all.
Do you want me to read this section on spiritual part of it?
Go ahead.
I'm just going to word one paragraph here. It says, the 10th tradition is vital for our growth and spiritual well-being as a fellowship. We cannot afford to be categorized or labeled by taking positions on outside issues. Public positions may attract some, but they would invariably alienate others. By remaining neutral on outside issues within the larger society, we are accessible to the broadest base of addicts. We do it this way so that no addict seeking recovery need ever die. As lofty and distant as that goal may seem at times, we can have it if we are willing to pay the price. Don't back off and don't get sidetracked. So I think that talks about that, more of the reasoning why we stay away from those those issues that can be controversial.
So if I say, look, I'm having a real difficult time today with who I'm going to vote for, that's an outside issue, right?
Unless I add, and it makes me want to drink.
Unless I add,
Exactly.
I am so upset about the character assassination going on between Trump and Biden that, you know what? I was looking at a beer today and I was thinking that thing's looking pretty good. That's how much this is stressing me out. See, now at that point, that's not an outside issue anymore. Would you guys agree with that or disagree?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave?
Yeah.
Well, I think it becomes an issue, an inside issue. I guess
Right.
If an outside issue is an outside, it's an inside issue.
But
When that happens, when something makes you want to drink or use or alter your mood in a way that goes against what sobriety stands for, and then it becomes an inside issue. But outside of that, yeah.
So what are some examples of outside issues, you guys, that you think are inappropriate to be discussing in a meeting?
Politics without the drink. I mean, it boils down to the fact, does whatever this issue is outside cause you to want to drink? And then it does become an inside issue. Now, how far you take that discussion in a meeting, that might be something you need to discuss with a sponsor or one-on-one with whoever down the road. It doesn't have to be a house issue. So where that line is drawn, I don't know. But if it does make you want to drink, it is an issue, an inside issue.
What do you think of all this stuff, Naomi?
I think it's really interesting when I've been at meetings and people will say this is an outside issue, and then they'll keep talking about it. They don't ever mention they don't ever mention, and it makes me want to drink. They're just like, I hate it and blah 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 blah. Oh, but it's an outside issue. And then this one pipes up, and this one pipes up, and this one pipes up. And at one point I just said, and it's still an outside issue. Let's get back to what we were doing.
Right.
I think that people often take free rein in expressing what they want to express if they have the time and the opportunity, and it doesn't have a lot to do with, and it makes me want to drink. It has a lot to do with, and I'm important and my opinion matters. Because it turns out that it might still be about me.
Yes.
Nicely spoken.
Nicely spoken. Yeah. Yeah. So, do you guys think that there are people within, now remember, keeping in mind that everybody's in a different place in their maturity journey, there are people that are new that don't know the lingo or I dare say the rules. We say we have no rules in these fellowships, but you get somebody break a tradition and find out how quickly we don't have rules, right?
Right.
Maybe they don't know the pattern or the personality of the group yet. We need to give them some room to grow, right?
A grace period, yeah.
Yeah, and not jump down their throat. Because they said something that was politically incorrect within a meeting. But then there are those people that have been around quite a long time. There's two kinds of people that have been around a long time. Those who have actually worked a program, they've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. And then there are those that have been around a very long time that haven't got a clue what's in the literature. And they're spouting out stuff that's their opinion and not the program, right? And many times they're considered the elder statesmen, and what they really are bleeding deacons. And so there's that kind of man or woman as well. And I think because of who we are and the way we are, ego-driven, right, in so many ways, that when we share, we have an agenda. Because a lot of times, and I'll be the first to admit it, you're all sharing, and inside my wheels are spinning, and I'm thinking, how can I express my opinion and my view on this topic and really sound good? How can I express how I feel about this and really come off like I know the program? And instead of really being motivated to give away what's been freely given to me. Right. And I think if we would all be honest, we've all done that. I think the more we mature and the longer we're around, the less we will do that, hopefully, as we're applying the steps and the traditions. Our friend Dr. Rob Kelly says he's got a meeting on Saturdays and he asks every week, how many here have worked a 10, 11, and 12 step this week? And only a couple of people raise their hands. And he says, how in the heck are you guys staying sober? Right? So the more you practice the principles, and the principles are the directions, those 12 steps, on a regular basis, and I'm not talking about a formal working of them, but applying and implementing the principles in them, the less likely you're going to be having an agenda I've got to make my point, right? And you're probably going to be less likely to be expressing outside issues in a meeting. There are people, because they don't like what you're saying or where you're coming from, will accuse you of sharing outside issues when they're not outside issues. If I make this statement, the reason I'm sober today is because my relationship with Jesus Christ, that is not an outside issue. Jesus Christ is spoken of in the big book on page 11. If I say that the reason I'm sober today is because of my meditation practices in my Eastern religion, that's not an outside issue. I'm sharing my experience and what's helping me stay sober. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yep. So I think you run into, everything you're talking about in the last couple minutes there's so many dynamics to that.
Yeah.
You got the new people, then you got the older people that have basically, we talked about this before about doing the wall steps. You haven't actually done the work the steps.
You just worked them off the wall.
But you go to a meeting and you share your whatever.
I've read them, therefore I've done them.
Yeah, your ego's kind of running the show. You're not really working the program, and then there's so many dynamics that fit in there. And I remember this happens a lot at meetings, and it happens especially when you've got newer people, especially on certain topics that come up. What I've found that I like to do is I try to turn that around. Like I'll say something like we don't want to talk about, specific political viewpoints or beliefs, but you could
word it differently.
You could share, like,
right?
when I go to family events and they start talking about politics, after they've had a few drinks, and so that's when I exit stage left, because I don't, right? So you can tie it into your recovery, your experience. Instead of the advice giving, you share it in a way that you're making it, sound like it's from your experience.
So I could say, man, all the character assassination that's going on in social media over this election, it's got me so stressed out that I'm really glad I'm here today, because I was thinking about drinking. See, I haven't mentioned a candidate. I haven't said whether I'm left or right. I haven't done any of that. But knowing how to word that, because we say all the time, it's all in the approach, right?
Right.
Knowing how to do that takes some skill sometimes. And you could have a new person that doesn't know how to do that, or you could have an old timer who doesn't know how to do that because they've never been taught.
Right.
Because we're not teaching the program anymore.
Right. We're just, here's go get the book, read the book, and go find yourself a sponsor. It's like we're not even helping these people a lot of times.
But don't you know how
to
powerful
get from point A to point B, we want to get them from point A to T.
Yeah.
And like, well, how you doing? How's it going? What step are you on?
But Dave, don't you know that if we all sign the book before we give him, then the person's going to be okay?
Well, it's just like, like even with Rob, sorry, Rob, I'm going to throw this out there. But if you're asking people, you worked steps 10, 11, and 12 this week, right?
Right.
And you get a couple of people to raise their hand, but if you dig a little deeper, like, people are going, well, I'm only on step 5 or step 4. So why would I do steps 10, 11, and 12? Well, because...
Agreed. I think his particular group, they've all done that.
I get it.
But no, you're right, because some people don't even know what step 1 is yet.
But if we're working with them, we can teach them.
Right.
Right? Because step 10 is basically, I'm going to take a daily inventory so I can keep myself on track, so I don't spin off.
Right. Because I'm watching
down the
TV.
road and I'm watching, this debate or whatever, and I want to,
Naomi.
So I attended a couple of meetings this week, and at a couple of them, the topic was prayer and meditation. And it was very interesting to me how many people had a profound attitude and opinion on prayer and meditation, while in their share said, and I don't really do that.
Wow.
Like, oh yeah, prayer this and prayer that. Well, I'm not really doing that. But if I were, this is how that would look.
So in other words, I'm not really doing the program.
I'm not really doing the program, but I would like to share about how I'm not really doing it, but I know how it should be done for 5 minutes and not let anyone else share while the new people's asses are falling off.
My God.
And how many people have we killed by saying things like that?
Right. That's like looking at, I'm reading the steps on the wall. I haven't really worked them or know anything about them, but I know what it says right there,
Are people that say, well, yeah, when I get to step 3, I just go over that because I got a problem with God. So then I go to step 4 and step 5. Well, the problem is all those involve God. So now we're back to half measures, if that. Right?
Quarter measures.
Measures, 16th measures. And you don't have to agree what's in the book, but it does say what it says, right? You can't disagree with that. Well, we don't talk about that. Well, evidently the author did. In fact, if you look at the original manuscript, if you look at some of the historical writings of Bill W. and Bob Smith and Reverend Shoemaker and some of these guys that were the major players in this whole movement, you will find a lot of material that would be considered outside issues today because they make people feel uncomfortable. My diaper's full. I'm uncomfortable. Well, maybe you need to change it. Maybe you need to change the direction you're going. Here's a statement from Ken. Ken says, and I thought this was really well written too. I read with some surprise in another post about how a member thought that anxiety was an outside issue, and it's given me pause for thought about what exactly is an outside issue? I mean, stuff like anxiety and depression often go hand in hand with alcoholism, in my humble opinion. So for anxiety to be classified as an outside issue is a bit like having a cold and someone saying a runny nose is an outside issue. But surely, wouldn't it be better to help that person with some tissue if it's something that's very common to everyone who suffers with a cold? I like that analogy. I also do understand and believe 110% that the root cause of our alcoholism is a spiritual malady. And if we treat that, our alcohol-related problems will resolve themselves, unless there's a psychological cause for them. For example, a certain type of depression that requires medical treatment. But I can't help thinking that sharing about depression or anxiety does not compromise the program of AA whatsoever. It may even help for the purposes of identification. I do also understand that we're not about group therapy. But if someone shared they suffered with depression or anxiety or another negative mental condition and shared in what ways the program helped them out, then that sounds like a win-win situation for me. For example, meditation helped me with my anxiety. And since I only suffered with real depression when I was drinking, the mental defense against the first drink has meant I haven't drank since I started the program of AA. And therefore, this has prevented my depression, which was heading towards suicide. Don't you find it interesting when in the beginning of a meeting, some meetings, it'll say, limit your sharing to your problems with alcohol? Well, I guess I'm not going to share.
I don't think I've ever heard that one.
Oh, yeah. Have you guys heard that?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
I have.
Yeah.
Problems and solutions, of course.
Yeah, but do they say solutions?
Often.
Do they? Good. Meetings I've attended up here in this town don't. But
That always makes me go right back to if it ain't working, go find another one.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have a problem with alcohol today. The obsession has been removed. In fact, the Big Book said it has disappeared. It's gone. I've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I have a living problem, which involves all sorts of so-called outside issues, right? And so I'm sorry if you're going to limit my sharing to my problems. Well, the other part is, too, as somebody who's been around a while, aren't we supposed to be sharing, like you said, the solution? The message, not the mess, right? So how am I going to share the solution if I can only share my problem with alcohol? Go ahead.
Not only that, but doesn't the book say that alcohol is but a symptom?
A symptom.
Of the problem.
Right.
So the problem can't be alcohol.
Nope.
And if it centers in the mind, it turns out after a couple of days, maybe a month, I don't have any alcohol in my mind anymore.
Right.
So henceforth, I'm carrying a problem. The obsession for alcohol is gone, but the obsession for trying to live without it continues.
So how do you talk about alcohol if you don't have the problem, right?
Right.
So what do you talk about?
You talk about the solution. You talk about what's in the literature. You talk about your experience when you did have a problem and what your solution was as you recovered from the problem. And that's where, and Dave and I have gone, we don't really disagree. It's more semantics, but we both very, very much agree that the whole point of the 12-step program, and it's even in the book, is to help you develop a relationship with a power greater than yourself to help you solve your problem. Right. Well, if I'm still having a problem, then I can share, but not unless I do.
I'd rather live in the solution.
Yeah. So I like that with your problem and solution. So if my solution to my alcoholism is that I practice a daily set time of prayer and meditation, how is that an outside issue? It's not.
No.
If my solution is that I pick my teeth with a plastic toothpick and not a wooden one, and that keeps me sober. That's not an outside issue either. I mean, it's
That's
silly.
your issue.
It's silly, but the people that say that we shouldn't talk about outside issues, though, are also the same people many times that they make all sorts of outside issues okay.
Right.
Well, there's a problem with the whole talking about like mental health issues and medication too.
Oh yeah.
It's like some meetings are like, that's if you're taking any medication at all, then you're not sober. There's a program called DRA, Dual Recovery Anonymous,
right?
That talks about mental health and the drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in Minnesota, when I was early in my recovery, I went to one of those meetings because I wanted to check out everything, right?
Yeah.
So you got people that are anywhere from ADHD to schizophrenia.
Right.
Right. And how they're coping with not only their mental health, but their medications, and then trying to stay sober, and how that all of that ties in.
Yeah.
They got a whole series of, I know I think they have one meeting here in Oregon. It's one of those groups I think needs to be grown because it can become an issue because people get alienated and don't end up going to meetings because the stuff that they need to talk about, they can't.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're having to take this medication for your co-occurring mental health issue, you're not sober, therefore you cannot share. That's a slippery slope. You could be guilty of killing somebody saying something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Naomi?
We were actually just talking about that this week because we were talking about mental health as a medical condition.
Yes.
And you would never tell a diabetic, I think that insulin might change your mood.
Right.
Because when your blood sugar is low, you're pretty lethargic. But
Yeah.
when your blood sugar, or when it's high, you're really manic. But when you've taken your insulin, it's a little lower. So it's altering your mood. So you should stop doing that.
Right. We would never do that.
But I have been present at meetings where they have said an antidepressant is a mood-altering substance and you shouldn't do it.
So is coffee.
Cigarettes.
Absolutely.
So is cigarettes. You don't think coffee and cigarettes are a mind-altering drug? Take it away from somebody cold turkey.
Yeah.
Don't do
Or
that.
cigarettes are the gateway drug.
You
right?
try and walk into an AA meeting and knock every cigarette out of people's hands and then break the coffee pot and watch to see how
Right.
long you survive.
Decaf coffee is an outside issue. Okay. So let's wrap it up because the topic of the show is outside issues. What are they really? So let's come up with some legitimate outside issues. Let's start with Denver. What do you give me?
I'm going to pass for a second.
Okay,
I need to dwell on that.
Okay, let's go over to Dave. Give me one legitimate outside issue.
One legitimate outside issue. Well, the obvious one is being specific on politics.
Being specific about your political view.
Yeah, so I mean, talking about details instead of generalities. I think that's a big one.
Okay. Okay, Naomi, one specific outside issue.
Homophobia.
Homophobia. Anthony.
Yeah. I would imagine that if you would just be like, religion, if you're saying this is the only way, and you're saying, and if you're being like
Dogmatic about it in the meeting?
Yeah, that would be an outside issue because the literature goes against that. It says a higher power of your own understanding.
Actually, it doesn't say that.
Doesn't?
No, it says we turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him.
That's
Right? It does say our power as we understand Him.
Him, yeah.
Right? So it's not that you can pick and choose whatever.
Right.
It's. But you're right. If we are preaching, right?
That was my point.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the deal. Unless you're doing it my way,
then you're not.
Now you might even be right, but that's not. That is an outside issue for the meeting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Denver.
Jeez, there's way too many.
Pick one.
I really can't.
That's a
You know,
cop-out.
it is a cop out. I'm sorry, but there are so many. I get on social media and I get spun and wound. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just like, when does it become my inside issue?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how
Right.
far am I going to let this eat on me to where it actually causes me to think about picking up a bottle?
Right.
So there's just way too many that I can pick on.
People with tattoos are evil.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's one.
exactly.
Yeah.
Too many tattoos.
There's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't. I'm not gonna pinpoint one because there's a whole lot of them.
So one of the things that well, first of all, let me just point out the fact. Did you notice how difficult it was for us to all just snap to one really quick? We had to think about it. But if you're in a meeting and you don't like what somebody says, look how fast you'll come up with it.
I think it's because, and I don't even know how to word this. We're being conscious of what we're saying now. You know, you gave us a second to think about this.
Sure.
You know, it's not
could
like
be.
it's not
Yeah.
fresh on my brain at a meeting when I'm going to
Okay.
hammer it.
I give you that.
So, you know, it was kind of
Right.
way too many of them.
Naomi?
I think the other thing is that we don't necessarily, in this room and in this context, need to be right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's possible in meetings.
Mm-hmm.
People really like to
Be right?
Yeah.
be right.
Yeah, we are a bunch of right fighters.
You want to be happy or be right?
Well, I don't think we can set up a booth out in front of Walmart, say, come sign up for our AA group.
We do at like Oxfest and things like that. But then again, you've got a whole recovery community meeting in one location too. It's
Right.
a little
Different
different.
atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to try that. Set up at Walmart.
Get a clipboard, do like a survey kind of setup.
Keep
Stop
the
everybody as they come in.
Keep the car running because they're going to ask you to load up quickly.
Yeah. So okay. So here, speaking of that, so an outside issue would be if I brought an ad from Walmart into the meeting because they had a great sale on lawnmowers, and I knew a couple of people that were looking for a lawnmower, and during the meeting, I said, hey guys, we all ought to go down to Walmart and buy a couple of these lawnmowers because Marv and Margie over here, they need a new lawnmower. That would definitely be an outside issue, right? Right?
Kinda.
Or if I come in with literature about my specific political belief or my specific faith, and I start passing it out at a meeting, that would be an outside issue. So, in fact, there is traditions that help us not bring in outside literature. But it's amazing to me, once again, when it's something we want, it's not an outside issue anymore. Case in point, daily reflections, not conference-approved literature. But yet, it's read in meetings regularly. And as soon as somebody points out, and it's usually somebody that's being very dogmatic, you know, that's not conference-approved literature. It's not usually because they're protecting the fellowship. It's usually because they don't like what's being read, right? But they're right. It isn't approved. It's just we're just a walking contradiction most of the time.
We're a mess.
We're not a reservoir of mental wellness. Again, so let's be clear. No AA group or members should ever, in such a way to implicate AA, express any opinion on outside controversial issues, particularly of those politics, alcohol reform, or sectarian religion. The Alcoholics Anonymous groups oppose no one concerning such matters. They can express no views whatsoever. I don't think we do very well with that. I think we express views all the time in the meetings. But there are some meetings, I will tell you, give them credit, that there'll be a lot of that discussion going on before the meeting. But as soon as that meeting's open, it stops. I've seen that happen. Good on you. That's good. That's a good deal. And so we're just trudging along, right, guys? Yeah. We don't want to bring whatever fellowship you belong to. We don't want to bring it any more into public controversy than it's already been brought, because it has been brought. NA, AA, CA, Alcoholics for Christ, Marijuana Anonymous, whatever you want to call it, they're all under scrutiny and all are in public controversy just by the nature of the fact that we're dealing with stigma when it comes to substance use disorder and the things that surround that. So what we want to do is we want to be very cautious about not stirring the pot any more than we have to. So that takes practice, because we like to stir the pot. And especially here on the show. All right. Any closing thoughts? Dave, from you first.
Just be nice.
Be nice. Naomi.
Wow.
Don't treat people as things.
Ooh. Anthony.
I had something, but it was an outside issue.
Okay. We can't talk about it. So was announcing the barbecue after the meeting, during the meeting, an outside issue? If it's not an AA barbecue? I guess it would be.
It's probably one that can be crossed.
Somebody will make it an issue. I guarantee it. Especially
Not me. I love food.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, definitely not.
But
me.
if you're serving all seafood, I'll make it an issue. That's an outside issue. Shrimp and lobster out. Outside issue.
If there's no steak.
There's no steak.
Unless I get it for free.
Denver, closing thoughts.
I'm gonna go inventory some of my issues, I believe.
All right. If you'd like to comment on the show and you're on Podomatic, you can do so. If you're on YouTube, you can do so as well. Or if you want to email us at take12radio@comcast.net, we welcome your emails too. So here's Michael Purrington with our closing song. I think you guys will enjoy this, get a kick out of it, entitled Sayings on the Wall. Here's Michael.
Don't think, don't drink, easy does it, first things first. All these helpful hints are supposed to kill my thirst. Since I got sober, I lost what was left of my mind. Coming to these meetings and reading these stupid signs. Nothing is so bad that a drink won't make it worse. They never told me sobriety was a blessing and a curse. One day at a time, I'm praying not to fall, going crazy, reading sayings on the wall. We can do together what I cannot do alone. If that's the best that you can do, I should have stayed at home. This too shall pass if I keep it simple. I can stand the pain. But these wonderful cliches are making mush out of my brain. Nothing is so bad that a drink won't make it worse. They never told me sobriety was a blessing and a curse. One day at a time, I'm praying not to fall, going crazy, reading sayings on the wall. Now, I can't say those signs contain intellectual wealth, but they're starting to make sense, even to a smart guy like myself. They're digging deep down to where my stinking thinking lurks. But I still get pissed off when they say, keep coming back, it works. Nothing is so bad that a drink won't make it worse. They never told me sobriety was a blessing and a curse. a time. I'm praying not to fall. Going crazy, reading sayings on the wall. One day at a time, I'm praying not to fall. Going crazy, reading sayings on the wall.
And that is the incredibly talented Mr. Michael Purrington and his band, The Messengers. Hey, listen, we have lost contact with Michael. I have tried everything in my power to locate him. If any of you know how to reach Michael Purrington, he is a dear friend of Take 12 Recovery Radio. He's contributed to our station a lot with his recovery music in the past, and we would sure like to reconnect with him. Please get a hold of us here at take12radio@comcast.net or give us a call, 541-971-6445. Michael, if you're listening, please reconnect with me. I'd sure like to chat with you, my brother. All right. Until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with each of us here in the studio today and the Take 12 Recovery Radio family, and we're all wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
This is the place.
Kitty, 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 kitty. Meow, meow, meow.
Woof, woof.